Welcome to the Power Up Talk Show, a talk show where we bring together community leaders that are making a difference in our community. I am Sandy Spady, your host, and welcome to today's show. Our guest today, Julie Shrader, I have known for the last 5 years. When I worked for the chamber, I did her ribbon cutting for Rejuvenating Women. And now she has a new step into a new nonprofit called Innocence Freed.
Yeah.
Julie, welcome to the show.
Hi.
Hi.
Thank you for having me.
Oh my gosh.
Appreciate it.
I always, let people know, find your purpose and your passion with a nonprofit and help.
Yeah.
So I love Coalition Human Trafficking. I helped out with you with Rejuvenating Women, which is now, they got rebranded to
Restored Wings.
Restored
and
Wings.
I think the rebranding again.
Yeah. And now you're stepped into another role.
Yes, ma'am.
Share with the audience this journey of how many years?
12 years.
12 years, yeah.
Yep. So I've been working with survivors for 12 years. And created the first home, opened the first home for trafficking survivors in Nebraska. And then the first home for kids who've been trafficked in Nebraska. And that house now is closing. And so my role now, I feel very strongly that I am going to work on getting another home for kids. And we're going to help kids who've been trafficked in the state of Nebraska.
Wow, the first one in the state of Nebraska.
Yep.
To think 12 years ago there was nothing, and now you're doing your another adventure helping these sex trafficking victims.
Yeah.
How is it that you started this journey? It's not an easy journey to get into. Most people want to just put their head in the sand and what? It's not happening. It's not here. What was your passion behind the purpose of doing what you do?
Oh, really, it was a calling from the Lord. Yeah. And I felt strongly after I changed some things in my life. And it was shortly after that I feel like God was just buzzing in my ear. And I would wake up with a feeling and go to bed with the feeling that I had to do something to help other women and help women who were not being helped by the community for the most part. And so what did that look like? And I wasn't sure what it looked like at first. And then I prayed into it. And then God started revealing by sending women who were trafficked. And I just knew that it was the direction we were to go. I didn't understand it at first because I didn't look at myself as one, as a survivor. But then after being in the business long enough and talking to enough people, I realized and admitted to myself that I am a sexual exploitation survivor myself. And I feel like that's why God chose me.
Yeah. I know there's always something personal inside that burns inside of you when God is niching at you to do his work.
Yeah.
And you've done a great job, right? All these 12 years when I first met you, you just have just exploded up.
Yeah.
How do you even begin? So you have a new nonprofit you're starting. Where do you start? How does it begin?
Yeah, well, it wasn't easy at first because I started back to square A, right? Where I didn't have anything, didn't have the funding, didn't have the things that I needed, that I wanted to do. And so I started meeting with donors, meeting with people, networking, meeting new donors that I had not met before. And lo and behold, I now am in the office I used to be in with Rejuvenating Women. And back in there, and I partnered with a therapist, so we are doing work together, which is extremely important. Something I wish I would have thought of a long time ago, to partner in this capacity. And it's been fantastic. So it's been wonderful. We actually are working on this house. And there will be no mortgage, no lease on it, which just gives me such a good feeling of peace because I don't have that payment every month. And we are working on that right now, and that will be also a private location. Nice. Yeah.
With the public, with hard things happening in the world, sometimes such as sex trafficking, people just do not want to realize it's happening right here in our hometown. Can you share with us or measure a success story of helping someone right here in our hometown? And then how can people, everyday people, be aware to the situation? Because it happens everywhere.
Oh, yeah, and every day.
Yeah.
Well, a success story can be any level. So it can be, especially someone who came from nothing and maybe was trafficked as a child, even by her parents, let's say. And let's say today, after going through the program I ran and working with other survivors, because that's very important in their healing, they now have a job. They now have not just a job, but a steady job, and that they're at for a long time. They know what they want to do for a career. That's a huge win. And maybe they've, even as small as quit smoking. So let's say they smoked for years and all of a sudden now they quit smoking because they feel better, they're more healthy, and they are trying to get their life better. So even the smallest things like that are how I know that there are successes with the women I've met in my life. Yeah.
That is great, because it is the little successes that the average person probably takes for granted.
Totally.
But for someone that's lived through multiple traumas in their life, it's a huge success.
Huge.
Great story.
Right.
How do you educate the public? Like, what can you do? Like, what can people look for? Because it does happen everywhere. I grew up in O'Neill, Nebraska, and they had a big, blowout there in a small little town of 3,000.
I know.
So how can you educate?
So one, you almost just said it right there. So your small towns are just as susceptible to trafficking as your large cities. So a town of 300, it still happens in your town. So that is one way to educate. Another way is to if you go with your gut. Yes. That's a big one. People don't always think that. Sometimes people get that feeling in their gut and then they stop and they're like, wait a minute, should I call the police? Who should I call? Oh, maybe it's nothing. Maybe it's the dad. Maybe it's not what I feel. But I always tell people, if you have that inkling, if you've got that gut feeling, call. It is the police's job. The police may not do anything. It is their job. And there is a 1-800 number, 1-888 number through the trafficking hotline that people can call if they feel like someone's being trafficked. The Attorney General of Nebraska also has a hotline number that you can call if you suspect trafficking.
What is it of signs you can look for? Like, maybe you're getting your nails done at again, a pedicure, manicure, or maybe you're shopping or hotels. Like, what are certain things that you've seen throughout the 12 years that you could share to kind of look for?
If you're in a hotel, look for maybe different individuals going in the same room often, primarily men. Now, it's not always men, it can be women as well that purchase, but mainly men. You'll see them go into the same hotel room over and over and over, and they're different men. You might see a young girl come out once or twice. That's always questionable. Now, if that happens, let the hotel know, and you could call the police as well too. There are some hotels better than others that will be proactive in stopping that human trafficking. Sometimes traffickers will pay hotel workers to stay quiet. So it's very important to still do what you can, thinking anything that you do could potentially help that person or persons who are in that room that are there against their will.
Wow. And I also think just from volunteering, rejuvenating women, even like getting a manicure and a pedicure, right? When they something about a tattoo, isn't there, like, aren't a lot of them tattooed?
Yeah, there are tattoos, and sometimes it's in the lip. Now they're doing it like in where it's colorless ink, where you could only see it with a black light. There are different ways that they're doing it. They will also brand with a knife into someone's skin a symbol or their initials, the pimp's initials. So there are different types of tattoos as well. But they're not as prevalent showing them. So there may not be any on the face now that would be a dead giveaway. or the hands. So it'll be private areas, covered up areas, and those might be a larger place now.
Like a dentist or a doctor. Wow. Tell us about the process of finding the sex trafficking victim, what you do for them, the time frame, the whole journey that you did so many times.
So what I've always done is I allow them to come to me or come to where we're at, right? So we make a number available, an email available. We have a website that also has a quick exit. So if her trafficker walks in, she can get out of that and it goes to a totally different website. We have that available. Plus we have an application available on our website. So they can just go on there, they can fill out the application and send it in. And that will tell us a little bit about whether or not she's ready for a program. Now, our aftercare program right now, we are doing that, and of course it doesn't include the housing. So we don't have the housing piece right now, although we do have a partner that will take one or two in a couple of bedrooms that has actual training in therapy and equine therapy. Wow. So that is also kept private for obvious reasons. So we do have 2 bedrooms right now we would utilize for adult women.
What would be a great story for a sex trafficked victim that has went on and they found their job, they've been remarried? Do you find it often as a success of their story that they come back and help?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Can you share a story about that?
Yeah. So there's a gal that, and it was quite a while ago, 2017, 18, a gal who went through the program, didn't complete the program, but went through the program and then came back and volunteered her time teaching a class. I always encourage that because there's something profound about peer-to-peer.
Yeah.
And when you have a trafficking survivor helping another trafficking survivor, it speaks volumes. And especially when this survivor who's now in a program, who's just beginning their healing, can see that this one over here has gotten so far in her healing. And it's encouraging. It's very positive for her to see that. So we encourage the healthy survivors to come back and teach a class or do a Bible study or lead some other kind of group or life skill. Yeah. It's very important that they do that.
Because they understand.
Yes.
They get it.
And they can say, I came through the program too.
Success story.
Yeah.
And they share it. I love that.
Yeah.
How do you, where do you begin? So how do you have your nonprofit and you need to get the word out there. How do you begin your collaborations with the community? Like fundraisers, like how, you've done it for years. How do you do it?
Goodness. So, our plan is to have a gala next year, 2025. The last gala that I did, we had over 800 people. Wow. That was last September. So I know that I can do it again. And a lot of it is just the connections I've made through the years and connections I continue to make. I have met so many new people in this season of my life that I think, how have I not known them before? Mm-hmm. And it's just amazing getting to know people I've known of but didn't know.
Yes.
And that has been a blessing. That's a big piece. And it's doing the networking. I have worked really hard putting myself out there, going to these different meetings and networking groups, talking to individuals. I have gone to donors that I've had in the past, and I've asked to meet one-on-one, sit down and meet with them, have a conversation, and just hope that they're ready to jump back on board. Yes. And so many of them have been, and it's been a blessing.
Yes.
I never would have suspected I'd be where I'm at today 7 months ago.
Yeah.
It's incredible. And it's only, I believe, by the grace of God.
Yes. Because you're doing what's helping others, right? You're doing what's right. How do you share your message? Let's say as your public speaker, I know you public speak, and she's going to be a speaker for the Live Your Why Summit, Women with Voices, coming in January. And I know as a speaker that every time you do speak, your message gets, you have that chance to share your message.
Yeah.
If you had less than like 3 minutes or like a snippet of your story to share, what would that snippet be? What would be the most, like a paragraph or quote, like to get to the mission? You know, like I have a short time, but I have 100 people in front of me and they just introduced me. Boom. What would you share?
I would share that I have been homeless. Recovered alcoholic. I have been sexually exploited. I've been sexually assaulted. I have gone through domestic violence. And I have grown up in a very broken home. And I believe that if I can heal through all of those pieces in my life, then so can anybody else. And I just want to offer to other people that there is hope after quite the valley or seasons of valleys, that there is hope on the other side of that valley. You don't always see it, you don't always feel it, but there's hope. And that's my greatest pleasure, is being able to share with so many people there's actual hope. And that's important to me. Again, because I know that what I've been through in my life, and I can get to where I'm at now and have true joy in my heart, others can too. Again, it's by the grace of God that I'm even here.
Yeah. It's interesting that they say if you don't have hope, you have nothing.
Right.
Because it's the hope that gives you
That's right.
somewhere to go to.
That's right.
Something to goal, give a goal for the future, or knowing that there's hope.
Yeah.
Because without hope, you have nothing.
Yeah.
You're just by yourself.
Yeah.
And even with Women with Voices, what I find so interesting is that when they share their story, and not just like their success story, but their true journey, right?
That's right.
As you share your journey,
That's right.
that needs to be shared.
That's right.
And you're going to touch the right people.
Yeah.
Yours just happened to be how God has graced you with victims of sex trafficking.
Yeah.
And it's everywhere.
Yes.
Now with this P. Daddy, is it Puff?
P. Diddy.
P.
Yeah,
Diddy,
P. Diddy.
With all of this coming out, I feel like it's really doing some triggers.
It is. It is right now.
And where do you find out when you have a huge bust, right, that affects your nonprofit? Does it amplify it?
It does.
Yeah.
It does. And here's the other thing that people don't realize. There are an awful lot of victims that were sent to his parties. Children and women and men and boys, doesn't matter. Transgender, they're all, right? They were sent to his parties. There are many coming out of the woodwork right now, and they're telling their story, and they're going to their attorney, and they're getting a witness statement created, affidavits written up, and they are some of these that are the 250, 260 survivors talking about what P. Diddy did to them. Some of those victims could be walking around here. You don't know. There are many victims walking around that we don't know. They may have been at P. Diddy's party or not, but they were part of something else that was just as devious. And so that's why it's important for me to share my story when I am before people, because you would be surprised how many women will come up to me afterwards, or they'll contact me by email or phone afterwards and say, I listened to you at such and such event, and I just want to tell you, I survived trafficking. Can we meet for coffee? It happens a lot.
Happens every day.
All the time.
And if it doesn't think that it affects you,
right?
If you really start finding out,
right.
And what I find interesting on TikTok, my next guest is a TikTok guru, is that they share, like I just got out of Walmart, I'm sharing this story because, all these stories that they share about almost being taken.
Yeah.
And I love that they have the guts to get out there and share it.
Yeah.
But that is like, it happens every day. It happens at high schools.
Yeah.
They have, what do they call that when they have someone show up that seems normal and they bring them in?
A groomer.
Groomer. Share that a little bit.
Yeah.
We have a little bit of time for that.
Yeah. So there's always generally going to be a groomer. There's someone that works for the trafficker. But when I say that, I say it lightly. Someone who works for them could be a friend of the trafficker who's also trafficking, okay? There's always someone in charge. But it could be a friend of the trafficker. It could be a family member of the trafficker. It could also be a woman that the trafficker has been grooming and has been trafficking for years. But now he's built her trust, she's built his trust, and she starts doing it for him. But here's why. Number one, there's manipulation. Literally, there is a changing of the brain that literally happens. And she's also afraid that he's going to hurt her grandmother, her mother, her child, her dog, whatever. So she keeps her mouth shut and she does what she's told, because that's how she stays alive.
Yes. And what I find interesting is that it could be, I know one time when you told me a great story about a child at a high school football game, and she might have had a groomer, and they go out and get drunk and do whatever, and then they take pictures, and then they blackmail them. And they could still go home every night to their home.
Yeah.
But if they don't show up, they blackmail them. They're going to tell their parents, their teachers.
Yep.
That blew my mind.
Yes.
Because that could be at the Papillion High School. That could be at Elkhorn High. And
Any.
they're going home every night, but yet they have to show up at a certain time.
Right.
Or they're going to they feel like they're going to get busted.
Yes. I'm going to tell your parents. I'm going to tell your teachers. I'm going to spread this all over the school. That is another type of trafficking that's happening. And the police departments now are they're getting a lot of calls about cases like that, or a lot of concerned parents. And it needs to stop. Yes. And it's a lot of times might be an adult who's doing that to them. So then that adult is going to get charged hard because they're messing around with a minor. It's not okay.
Yeah.
It's sex trafficking or human trafficking, labor trafficking with a minor.
Do you find it that it's hard for these young women, men, to tell their parents? Like, are they once you get them. They don't do that?
No. Mm-mm.
How do you find them?
They will tell us their story when I meet them at something, or they reach out. They want someone to talk. I've had a lot of people email me, because I always make an email available. They will email. I want to talk to you about my story. Can we set up a time to talk? And I've met so many survivors that way. And all they want to do is to have someone else who believes in them, who believes them, and they want to share their story because they're looking for help somehow, whatever that is. Maybe just someone to believe them, or how can I get to the next step? Help me get to the next step.
Yes.
Whatever that is.
What I find interesting when you said that chemical bonding in your brain changes, and I know I listened to some of your FBI gal that talks about it, like why don't they leave? And as I heard her speak about that, I also think about, like, why don't women leave domestic abuse? Why don't sex traffickers leave? It's a true chemical balance.
It is.
The love bombing. They want, it's just that people, they can't. They can't. They're so fogged over. They can't.
Right.
So it's like, how do you touch somebody or share with someone when they're at that foggy age, that foggy stage? Like, you see what's happening, but they don't see it. Right.
And if you are a teenager and it's your own parents that are trafficking you, who are you going to go to? Wow. Who do you have to go to? Because the parents are going to turn around and say, my daughter caught her with drugs the other day. She's on drugs. She's really struggling with drug addiction. And I have her seeing a therapist, which could be true. I have her seeing a therapist. She just really needs help. She sees things. She hears things. Chances are they're not going to be, the teenager won't be believed.
Yeah.
And so who are they going to go to for help? Nobody. Nobody believes them. And that's sad. That's where I really get very passionate about.
Yes.
Because someone's got to be there for them too. And they have nobody. Who are they going to go to?
I love that they can reach out to you. Speaking of that, how can people find you?
Yeah.
Because they are finding you, but for the ones that maybe have not heard.
Yeah. Innocencefreed.org is our website. And then to get a hold of me, it's Julie@innocencefreed.org.
Nice.
Yeah.
How would you want to collaborate with other businesses, partnerships? Like, who out there that might be listening that have a passion for sex trafficking victims? What would be some great partnerships for you?
You know, I am right now looking for a medical partner, someone who can do laser tattoo removal. I've got someone who can do tattoo cover-ups, but I need someone, and that's through a medically licensed facility, who can offer tattoo cover-up or a tattoo removal if they want it removed. So I'm looking for that kind of partner right now. Great. And looking for another attorney that might be willing to offer services for those who've been trafficked, who need maybe help with custody once they get well. Maybe, because what happens sometimes, they end up with their father, and the father sometimes is the trafficker. So that's a problem. So they need someone to talk to legally to figure out what their rights are and what they can do, and whether or not that attorney is willing to do pro bono work for her.
All right, we need attorneys and physicians.
Yep.
Well, Julie, it's been great having you on the show. I have volunteered for you in the past. I just am so inspired by all the lives you're changing. Mm-hmm. And anyone out there that has a passion to help sex trafficking victims, make sure you reach out to Julie. Yeah. She is small but mighty, as I always say. She's small but mighty, and she's changing the world. Thank you for being on the show.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it, Sandy.
Remember, we can all make a difference, one person at a time. If you have a passion to help someone, if you have a passion to be that person to do something, remember, it's action. Just take that action, take that step, and let's change the world. Have a great day.